Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
I'm Chris Clements, and this is not NPR. We are not at an NPR table somewhere in the bowels of National Public Radio.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong spot.
No, you're not.
You're
You're good.
Where am I?
Forget it.
We're just getting a little slap after we've been here for a couple hours at the Conservative Partnership Institute that's hosting us here in the Washington, D.C. metro area.
When we're happy to have Drew Bond with us.
Drew Bond. Legendary Drew Bond.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So legendary. It's good to be with you guys.
And I'm excited about this because you and I have known each other for 30-something years.
Yeah,
something.
very long time. No, we're not that old, but yes.
We're old.
Well,
Yeah.
you were just children.
Yeah.
We were just children, smoking cigars on the Capitol steps, drinking whiskey. Back when you could do that sort of thing.
Yeah, you can actually smoke cigars in
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
Capitol.
In the Capitol.
Yeah, in the offices.
I remember going to the Friday Smoker in when Boehner.
Well, Boehner was
was-
always smoking. Even when
Yeah,
you
but
couldn't.
it was in his office when he was, I guess. Well, no, that could have been Boehner. It must have been. I can't remember whose office. It was one of the leadership offices, but like in '96, and that I wasn't drinking or smoking then. I was a pretty active Mormon, and I remember somebody got really offended that I didn't take a cigar and a whiskey. I was like,
And whiskey.
Sorry.
That was just part of, you had to do that every time you walked into Boehner's office anyway. The whole place smells like cigarettes, and there's definitely a whiskey on the table.
yeah, or red
Yeah.
wine.
Things have changed.
Oh, those were the good old days.
Drew, great to have you.
Yeah, good to be here.
So talk to us. I mean, give us a little quick background. Some of our listeners will remember we had John, your partner.
John Hart.
on, John Hart.
Yep.
The
give us
gentleman farmer.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. He did
Yeah.
it from his farm.
Friend and business partner, absolutely. Yeah.
Give us a quick rundown of C3 Solutions and then also what things are happening right now that we should be worried about, thinking about, caring about.
Yeah, so, C3 Solutions is the Conservative Coalition for Climate Solutions, which I know is a record scratch sometimes. So conservatives are like, wait,
Say it
conservative climate? What? So, we intentionally put conservative and climate in our name and solutions and coalition because we believe that, for too long, conservatives, Republicans, broadly, anybody sort of right of center, libertarian, however you could consider yourself, for too long we've been kind of trying to run from the issue because, frankly, the issue was owned by the left and because it was spearheaded by, none other than, Al Gore and the like. And so, we've seen Republicans and conservatives have seen the issue as a slippery slope to socialism, frankly. But what we've also seen over time is when Republicans and conservatives and free market, libertarians don't stand for something but only stand against something, they lose. And you can argue all day long about the climate in terms of the science and, which science do you believe and, what the temperature will be in 2100 or, pick your date. Nobody actually knows what the temperature of the earth will be. But we do know and we believe that we should leave this place better than we found it as conservatives. And we look around and see that, the climate is changing in various ways, in various, different places differently. And some of that's, frankly, God-made and some of it's man-made. And so to the extent that it is man-made, we want to reduce that as much as possible. So we founded the Conservative Coalition for Climate Solutions because we really felt like conservatives need to be on offense on this issue. And it's frankly, it's not a slippery slope to socialism if you really care about solutions, because the best way to approach solving this problem from a man-made perspective is through innovation, through free markets, through bottom-up solutions. So, in fact, it's actually the opposite. It's actually an on-ramp to accelerating human flourishing and helping people, lift themselves out of poverty. So, anyway, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We educate members of Congress and their staffs, and we work in coalitions with groups across the spectrum, so left, center, right.
Right.
We clearly come at it from the right. And then, from a communication standpoint, we're out there marketing our ideas. And so as a part of that, we've got an online news magazine where we promote kind of all things free markets around climate, energy, and the environment. So. Anyway, I could go on and on.
No,
about
this
our
is
founding and who, all the different things that we're involved in. But
no, I think it's so needed. To arm. We were just talking with someone about arming, our foot soldiers with good ideas and good policy and proper science.
Yeah.
About what the solutions can be, and versus what some conservatives have tabled as the religion of climate change, that just crashing industrial economies in the name of climate change, and which you're correct, it's a slippery slope to socialism, is the end all, be all.
Yeah.
So it's great that you guys have done this. What has been the reaction of the left when you're at the same conference with them, and you're actually challenging their thinking on these issues with facts,
Yeah, it's just
and with solutions, because their solutions aren't really solutions.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, that's part of the challenges. I mean, you've got some notable figures, running around the international stage, like Greta Thunberg, who's been doing this since she was a teenager. I think she's in her 20s now. Preaching kind of the gloom and doom of climate, and that we all should just.
Well, we have a climate czar jetting around in his private jet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
John Kerry.
Yeah.
You still have Al Gore with his.
Yeah.
Fleet of private jets.
Yeah.
Flying around the world.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the reality is, like, if the gloom and doom were true, which it's not. I mean, yes, the climate's changing. Yes, we should reduce our impact on the environment. But if the gloom and doom were true in terms of if we don't fix climate today or fix climate in the next 10 years, then we're all driving off a cliff. If that were true, then we actually have about maybe 2 to 3 options. One option would be shut out the lights and hope for the best. We saw what happened during the pandemic. That doesn't work too well in terms of helping people rise out of poverty. It's not good for the environment. Or you could go all in nuclear. The left oftentimes, just can't seem to get into a position of accepting that nuclear is the cleanest and the safest form of energy in terms of baseload power. Or again, we could go as far and as fast as possible on accelerating energy innovation. So across the board on fossil fuels, renewables, you name it. And so I think, the reaction on the left sometimes is sort of like a sigh of relief. They're like, oh, finally you get it. Finally you're on our side. And then they realize, like, oh, actually they haven't brought me to the left. I'm actually trying to bring them to the right.
Yeah.
And it's not. This really isn't a left-right thing. It shouldn't be. The reality is like, if you're going to solve for climate from a man-made perspective, you need more innovation, not less. You need more energy, not less. You need to rise people out of poverty, because we know, and we've done the analysis on this now for 2 years running, that free economies are clean economies.
Yeah.
So free economies are twice as clean as unfree economies. And we also know from history that dictatorships are not good for the environment. Communism, not good for the environment, right? What is good for the environment are actually free markets, functioning, healthy democracies.
Which is fascinating. I mean, it's really...
It's so refreshing to hear.
Well, it is, because they're like, oh, these developed countries are polluting everything. It's like, yeah, but we're not burning dung for heat like they do in a lot of countries, right?
Well, I mean, take India. I mean, despite as as advanced we might like to think it is, but it isn't in the vast majority of the country. And it's one of the largest polluters in the world. Same for China. As technologically advanced we might like to think of China, they're one of the biggest coal polluters in the world.
Yeah.
And they're not getting off of that anytime soon, because the cost of which is just
and it's
prohibitive.
And they're not free.
No, they're not free.
Your point is
neither one.
It's not a free economy, so it's which is why free enterprise is important.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about if you're looking at greenhouse gas emissions and what has reduced greenhouse gas emissions the fastest in our lifetime, it's actually natural gas. It's
Right.
fracking, the fracking revolution, which opened up markets globally and turned the United States from being an energy importer to being an energy exporter. That cleaner natural gas, allowed us to, in many cases, get off of coal and switch to natural gas, and in other cases take that natural gas and ship it to other parts of the world where our gas is actually cleaner than Russian gas, for instance. I mentioned coal because I know there's coal is so easily demonized, but the reality is like we need all these forms of energy. If you're trying to, again, solve for climate, you want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The way you do that is you either switch to cleaner, burning fuels or other sources of renewables, whether it be geothermal or hydro or solar or wind or nuclear. And from a coal perspective, again, like coal's not the enemy. If the challenge you're trying to solve is how do you burn it cleaner? And American-made coal is actually cleaner than many other
Right.
sources of coal. And then we know through technology that's being developed now, but we've used in the past, that we can capture the emissions from that coal, the carbon, and use it. So we've been doing this for years with enhanced oil recovery. When you've got an oil well that's getting later in its life, it's almost fully depleted. You pump some carbon down, and it actually extends the life of that well. You turn the carbon into other products. So there's all kinds of research being done. I just see every one of these energies is just this incredible resource that we have. We are rich. The United States in particular is rich in abundant resources. And so it's really about how do we do it cleaner over time? How do we do it more efficient over time? And that all, helps create jobs. It all helps, help rise people out of poverty. And again, if you look at around the world, to your point about India, I mean, if you look at, places in the developing countries, their number one concern is not climate change. Their number one concern is how do I feed my family?
Right.
Exactly.
Right? How do I protect my family? How do I get out of poverty?
Exactly.
Yeah. What? So Congress has been, the administration has been, going big on green energy. The Inflation Reduction Act had these massive subsidies for all kinds of renewables and electric cars. What, from a policy perspective, what are the challenges that poses, and what do our listeners need to understand about where the trade-offs are?
Yeah, it's a big question. I think, trade-offs is really key. And so I'm so glad you brought it up, because every form of energy has a trade-off. It has a positive and has a negative. I mean, I have a solar company, so I'm not anti-renewable. In fact, I'm very pro-renewable. But I also tell you that solar is not the solution for everybody everywhere. It has trade-offs. And electric vehicles, I think you drive a Tesla, is that right?
I drive a Tesla.
Yep.
I do not.
So, we've got, polar opposites here. I drive a very old 4Runner that, my son and I share. So electric vehicles are great in the sense that they don't have a tailpipe, right? But they also do impact the environment further on down the supply chain. So, when you're mining the minerals and processing those in order to put them into the batteries, and then you've got to, all the materials involved and, manufacture them, it takes petroleum to make them.
Right.
So this idea that
It takes mining.
Yeah.
Which this administration doesn't seem to understand that, because they want to shut down all the mines at the same time and incentivize the manufacturing of electric cars and batteries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, wait, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's this is the trade-off that I think the left so often kind of tries to push this, like it has to be all renewables and only renewables.
Yeah.
And so,
now natural gas is a dirty word, and 10 years ago it was the savior of America.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's where I think you get into this fossil fuels versus non-fossil fuels, fossil versus renewables. Again, I like solar, I like wind, I like hydro, I like geothermal. These are incredible technologies. So as they continue to innovate, as we continue to innovate, they will get better and better. We will have, fully integrated. We already have fully integrated systems at grid scale where they've got, batteries with solar and wind and hydro, right? But you still need energy to make those, and it's you've got to consider downstream where you're going to mine that. And so if we don't want to mine here in the United States, it's going to be mined over in some other country with very different labor standards.
Absolutely.
And so there's just this strange, I don't know, dichotomy is not the right word, but just a strange kind of lack of understanding, I think, in a lot of these policy debates, particularly on the when the left comes at this and says it has to be 100% renewable by 2030 or 2050 or pick your date. Like, well, okay, how's that going to happen? Tell me how that's going to happen, because where are we going to mine those minerals? Right now we're getting 80 to 90% of minerals from China.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that we went from being dependent on the Middle East for oil to now we want to be and are dependent on China for minerals and mining. And so again, nothing against electric vehicles. We should make them. We should make more of them, but we have to mine these things. Let's do it here.
We live in a state where every copper mine that's proposed is fought by Democrats.
Oh yeah.
By leftist, environmentalist Democrats who are all in for renewables. It's like, well, listen, you can't have one without the other. You do realize that.
Yeah.
And it's a sad state of affairs. And at the same time, I think you have they're trying to push a lot of these expectations on the automobile industry, the natural gas industry. And I just get the feeling from the literature that nobody believes any of it.
Yeah, it's
like GM's building a new V8 factory. We reported on this on the podcast some time ago. Like an $8 billion V8 factory. Why? Well, because they know that their profits, in order to make the electric vision work, they need to make money, and their money is all in gas guzzling trucks. Yeah. I think it's interesting that
car companies clearly see this as an opportunity, and it is. You've got a car that has been basically the same for over 100 years, and now there's an opportunity to make a whole new market with these vehicles. So, on the one hand, it's just an incredible market opportunity for the U.S. to own that and lead that market.
Sure.
And frankly, driving an electric vehicle, they're pretty exhilarating.
Yeah.
They're very fast.
Very fast, very quiet. I
always get car sick. But that's just me.
Yeah. Oh man. But I think this idea, like I get concerned when car CEOs say we're only going to produce electric vehicles by such and such date. Well, I'm not sure I only want to do anything in terms of, I don't want to put all my eggs in only one basket.
Yeah.
So I want multiple baskets of energy. I want multiple options for cars. And ultimately I think it ought to come down to consumer choice, right? So it shouldn't be because, Joe Biden said so.
But Joe Biden believes it's because he said so. We had that conversation earlier with the guest that it seems to be that this administration, because they say it is so, it must be so, and therefore everyone needs to fall in line as to what that vision is versus what the reality is.
Yeah.
So this is going to come out of left field a little bit, but I was just thinking about this only electric. So I'm sitting in the garage, and I needed to move. So my wife also has it. She got the Tesla first. Once I drove her Tesla, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't drive anything else. I'm going to have to get a Tesla. So we're a 2 Tesla family. Now I do have a couple gas cars that my kids drive. So in case, her Tesla wouldn't start. I couldn't get the screen to come on and, whatever. And I had this fleeting thought that turned into more of a rabbit hole that these cars are computers, right? It's just a computer on wheels. It's got connectivity. If there is a nefarious situation, they could literally turn your car off and you could not use it. And it made me think I'm always going to want to have a gas car that I can literally turn on as a backup. And not that that would ever happen, but that's got to be something that we think about.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I mean,
during the pandemic.
well, yeah, it's like, oh, we don't want you to do anything. We're going to turn off your car. You know, we're going to demand that all the Teslas are parked. You know, whatever. It's something that I was just like, whew, wow.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big concern in terms of cybersecurity, right? I mean, and that this is it. You know, you brought it down to kind of the car household level, but you know, it also exists very much on the grid level, and so, you know, utilities are fighting this every day, all day, because a lot of those switches on the grid, you know, a lot of them were made in China.
Yeah.
So I think, to your point, I want optionality.
Yeah.
So you know, if I'm given the choice between a fully electric Tesla or a Tesla hybrid, I'll take the hybrid because I want a little bit of gas backup optionality. So I mean, that's just where, you know, I would hope that most of these, you know, innovations in terms of how they get to market would be driven by the market and not be driven by government mandates. Because, I mean, we've seen, frankly, the dangers of bad climate policy play out in Germany, right? Where, you know, Germany went all in on solar. It's not actually the best place for solar. And you guys are from
rains quite a bit.
Arizona. Arizona's a better place for solar, much better. So they went all in on these solar subsidies. They got off the coal. They got off the nuclear. They brought, you know, on, you know, Russian natural gas and created this perfect opportunity for Putin to come in and invade Ukraine. And so, you know, like that whole scenario came about because of bad climate policy that was driven from top down. And so there is a such thing as good climate policy. And the best climate policy is, again, based on economic freedom. It's based on free markets, competition, choice, innovation, right? We want to drive innovation. We don't want to mandate any particular innovation.
Yeah.
So,
great point.
I don't know. I had this similar thing. You know, the one of the hot topics right now in DC is the whole gas stove ban.
Yeah.
Right. And
it just seems ludicrous.
So it's funny. So here we're in the middle of a kitchen renovation at our house, and my wife is long overdue for a new kitchen, and we've had a gas stove, which I love. And so we went into the store, and I said, you know, we have a gas stove. I love it. I want a gas stove. And he said, well, have you seen the induction stove? And I was like, no. Is that like the same electric one? Like, I don't want one that, you know, doesn't work well, that takes forever to heat up water or whatever. Well, then he showed me the new induction stove. Well, the new induction stove actually boils water in like less than 60 seconds.
Whoa.
So now I'm like, okay, through my own choice, right? You've given me a better option. I'll pick that option. And I feel like, you know, that, and you know, so I still like natural gas, right? I would still pick a gas stove, you know, in the right circumstances, but like, don't tell me that I can't have a gas stove, right?
Yeah.
Just give me options. And you know, and I mean, people want to live their lives in a way that, you know, best suits them. So I just think, you know, freedom is always better than lack of freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's true with, I mean, in terms of natural gas, with all the different appliances that you're able to do at any time, you know, heaters, water pumps, water heaters. You know, they're always trying to sell you on a tankless water heater. And for my house, because we want the water hot right when it comes out, we have a 100-gallon, you know, deal.
Yeah.
But
I just want hot water, a lot of it. So
Yeah,
we got
a
the
lot of it.
tankless. We can just run that damn thing because the kids
Yeah.
run the tub. They don't drain it. They don't put the drain in. They just run the tub.
They just run.
So it's like, all right,
Yeah.
we're going to do
But-
that. I'm not going to pay for
But
it.
choice,
Yeah.
why do you think the left is so fixated on limiting choice? Is it ideology? It's not based on fact.
It's control.
It's just control.
Yeah, I think particularly the extreme left, you know, the environmental left, you know, really believes that climate change is the
It's a religion.
most important issue, and nothing else matters. And so, you know, if that's what you think is the most important issue, and if you don't fix it, then the world's going to end. then they think that the only way they can help humankind is through their own sort of approaches and policies. So it's just a totally different worldview, right? Where again, like we started our organization because we believe that climate is real in terms of we do see changes in climate happening, but this idea that everything's going to end if we don't suddenly turn the dial down on the Earth's temperature and we're solely in control of it is kind of anti-factual.
Well, there is this thing called the sun.
Yeah.
Seems to play a part in it.
Yeah. So it's a complex system that I would argue was made by God for humans and for humans to flourish. So I think it's a different of the left oftentimes, particularly to your point about a religion. I mean, it kind of becomes we're worshiping the creation as opposed to worshiping the Creator.
That's a great way of putting
it. And so we're here for a limited amount of time, and we're given this opportunity and responsibility to steward the resources that we've been given. And so let's steward them in such a way that we do leave them better than we found them. So that shouldn't mean, by the way, the knee-jerk reaction on the right has been so hard against the left on this that it's like, well, I can waste resources if I want to waste resources, right? And I'll so there's this element of like, well, yeah, you can do that. You live in a free country.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you can just like throw trash in your neighbor's yard, right? So like when did it become a conservative principle that we should like waste more, not less?
Yeah.
So this is where like I think we have to kind of get out of this knee-jerk, us versus them mentality and realize while we do disagree on maybe the world approach, there's a lot of opportunity to agree on finding, ways to innovate, finding ways to, use less energy or get more out of the energy that we use. He's got a tankless water heater, you've got a tank water heater, but I guarantee you your tank water heater is a lot more efficient today than it was like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, ultimately, like whether it's a tank or not tank, it's about like how much money are you spending heating your water? How much water do you have to use to do that? And fundamentally, it's a choice that you get to make when you're, building your house or buying your house or upgrading your house. So I just think it's always better if you give consumers choices, and the choices should be about more abundance, more affordability, right? More options.
Yeah.
Great point. Drew, thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for your friendship.
Yeah.
I love how you said the choice. It seems to be about either worshiping the creation versus the Creator. I think that's the kind of the battle in the nutshell.
Yeah.
And it's going to be especially hard to, make them understand that, at least the far left understand that worshiping the Creator is a much better deal.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have faith in
everyone.
anything, that's where to put it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an incredible opportunity really for us all, again, to also remind ourselves that in these debates, we need to have grace and recognize that, people come at these from different perspectives. And so while I might have very hardline disagreements with you from a policy perspective, it doesn't mean that I have to be, attacking you.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Or you should, have the right, you shouldn't have the right to attack me, for instance. So I think some of that's been lost in the kind of hyper polarization of where we are today in our country.
It really is. It really is. Where can people find you, find C3?
Yeah,
learn
so
more?
Thank you. C3solutions.org is our website, and there you'll find a link to our news magazine, which is c3newsmag.com, but just c3solutions.org.
Great.
Yeah, check us out. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thank
Drew.
you so much, Drew.
Drew Bond.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Thanks.
Always good to be with you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for your friendship too.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Likewise.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Take Take care.